I once heard a phrase that was, there's 100% probability that something wrong is gonna happen. Someone's gonna die, you're gonna lose a job, you're gonna lose friends, you're gonna lose family, probably you're gonna lose something you really appreciate. And you have to be ready for that because it will happen. And you have to be strong enough for that moment, to overcome that.
Yeah. Hello, guys. Welcome back to a new episode for Finding Purpose, where we navigate laws and how those losses make us grow as people. Today, I'm joined with a good friend of mine, Kadir Lima. He's an entrepreneur, as well as Amir Lima's brother, who I recorded with on episode 4. So if you haven't watched that episode, go watch it. A lot of value there. And we're about to offer some more value here with his younger brother, who has an incredible mindset, and I'm very blessed to have today. I'm your host, Tulio Hidalgo. I will do my best here today to ask Kadir great questions so we can offer some good value for you guys. And hopefully you can take something away from this episode. So how are you doing, Kadir?
Everything great, Tulio. Nice to be here. Thank you for inviting me, and also my brother. He told me about how was his experience here, talking with you and sharing those experiences, lessons, and advices we can give to the people. And I'm very happy to be here. I would love to share more about me, some experiences and lessons that I've learned throughout my life and throughout my experience in the past few years. So ready to start, yeah?
Thank you, man. I really appreciate you making the time to be here. I think time is such a valuable thing, and the way we use that time is so important.
Yeah,
And for you making that time to be here really means a lot. And I think when we use our time to share our experiences, share things that we've learned, share that value, I think it really helps us to not only reflect on how far we've come and where we're going, but also help others who are going through their own processes be able to catch on to certain insights and things that can help them.
That's also something I'm not going to cover throughout this podcast because for me, part of success, it's sharing all the things that I know with others. It's not just about me. It's not just about my life, but about helping others also achieve their dreams and what they're fighting for. So
Totally. No, it really is a great motivation to share. Yeah. And so just to let the audience know a little bit, we actually met originally, I met you and your brother at a retreat. It was a spiritual retreat that is done by the Opus Dei, which is a beautiful experience, really is impactful. And I just remember encountering both of you guys, and I felt this energy from you guys, and it was impactful. I felt something different also, and I'm glad I approached you guys. I'm glad we got to speak during that time and start to build this friendship that I feel like we're progressively building. So now for the audience to get to know you a little better, could you tell us a little bit of your background, where you grew up, and what you do for a living now?
Yeah, sure. Well, I was born in Bolivia. I grew up there. I went to school there also. So I was in a medium-class family. I also been so close to my brother, so it's a really important part of my life also now. But I grew up there. I went to an Opus Dei school. That's why I knew about the retreats and the spiritual life. And that's something I'm blessed. My parents really it's something very important for them, for us to have the spiritual life very developed. And so they said, you have to go to a spiritual Opus Dei school. So that I started there since I was 6 years old. I started school. And then I'd been in Bolivia until I had 15. Then I moved here to the US. And then I finished 3 years of high school. But I did it by doing homeschool. So I didn't really go to a place. And then I started my entrepreneur career and all that. But just for the audience to know me better, in Bolivia, I tried many times to be an entrepreneur. It's something that I always had inside of me. I always wanted to do something about. And that really began because difficult situations. Not everything starts in a good way. Yeah. So I started because I saw, in Bolivia, I think I was probably 10 years old, something like that. And I saw my parents struggling financially. They had many problems. Some businesses were not going as expected. And I really felt like useless. Like I'm going to school, I'm going to play football, and I'm not really doing something useful for them. I'm not helping them in something that is really going to move us forward. So that pain is like, it was a really bad feeling that I had, because it was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to start. I'm 10, 11 years old. What can I do? So at that point, my mindset is, oh, I'm going to start selling cars at school, this little Hot Wheels. I'm going to start doing homework for my classmates so they can pay me something. But it wasn't really something big, but it was the mindset. I was cultivating my mindset of really doing something on my own, right? So then when I was probably 13, 14 years old, me and my brother, we started an e-commerce business. It was a Shopify business back in Bolivia, but it didn't really work because in Bolivia, you don't have some of the payment platforms. You don't really have a good logistics companies like here in the United States, right? When we came here, I was 15. It was like opportunity for start, because in Bolivia also didn't really enjoy my, we can say the last 3 years I've been there from 12 to 15, because there was a lot of struggle. I had some medical issues also there. I was not really doing great at school. You lost many friends. So I said, okay, this is my opportunity to leave. Like, I have nothing to lose here. Okay, I'm gonna go. I was one of the most excited of my family to come here.
Really?
My mom was like, I don't know if this is the right decision. My brother was like, and I was like, I'm gonna go. What can go wrong? If something goes wrong, we can go back, and that's it.
Totally.
Yeah. Then we moved here, and I started learning more, and I started seeing a different world. So it was like everything was new. Everything was, and you was able to see the opportunities everywhere. Like that's a blessing, because I come from a, I'm not gonna say poor country, but it's a difficult country,
Yeah.
and it doesn't have much opportunities as this country has. So when you come from that, you see the opportunities here everywhere, like in every area of your life. You can be talking about entrepreneurship, financial life, spiritual life. You have many more things to do, and also life everywhere. So I said, "Oh, this country has a lot of opportunities. This is interesting." So I was happy for that. And then started here doing an e-commerce business also with my brother, because we said, "Okay, we are in the right country to do this." And we failed 2 times. We created one brand for Amazon, and then we created another product. Both of them failed. Got in debt for like everything went absolutely wrong, and I was very frustrated because I thought, because I was in this country, everything was gonna be easier, but really not. And nowadays, you see in social media, people saying, "Oh, you can do this business and that business, and it's easy. In 3 months, you can make this amount of money." And I'm a proof experience that it's not really true. You have to go through a lot to get something. Like that's something difficult to understand.
Yeah.
Even when you're young, you want everything fast. You want money fast. You want this fast, this house fast, this car fast. You want everything fast.
Something about you said that you had this great desire to come over here compared to your family members. You mentioned there was nothing to lose behind. Like there were certain things during that time frame that I guess you were experiencing. Yeah.
So in terms of the school, I had a medical issue with my knees. I had a surgery
Oh,
on both
really?
of my knees. So I was couldn't like for 3 months. So it was difficult in school because I was staying in the room for all day long. It were like about me. It was kind of a bullying. I'm not gonna say bullying,
Yeah.
but it wasn't really a good time. It wasn't right. It was not nice. Um, yeah, that part, and also the struggling of my parents were not going well. I saw them so stressed. That creates pain because most of the parents want to hide those things, their kids, because they don't want to share that. But it was the same with my parents. They didn't want to share that, but I always been like perceptive, and I knew that something was going on, and created like this, we could say, fire inside me that you act like I'm gonna do something. Because I saw a lot of people nowadays that I'm alive, obviously, but they're not really. They don't have that fire. They're like, oh yeah, here I have my life, I have my dog, and just living my life.
Yeah, kind of go with
Yeah,
what the world would bring along the
yeah,
way, rather than kind of accountability and
kind of
taking that
taking it. Yeah,
action.
and it's like can't be that your life is just for that. I did not create
Mm.
you just for that. And if you're doing that, you're being I'm too comfortable, right? Because you could give so much more to the world, so much more to your family, so much more to your friends. And you're not really doing it because it's difficult or because it takes time, action. So you're just staying there. So yeah, I think those moments of pain create that side of you of like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. So that's important, at least for me. At that moment, it was terrible. I wanted everything to end. But now I'm looking back and I'm saying that was really good.
Mm.
And things that I thought were terrible nowadays are firstly made me better. And secondly, it's also giving me the tools to help other people to grow. Okay.
Mm.
So it's like kind of example. Also, I know that my difficult times I had are now, things that I can share with other people to inspire them, to guide them, and tell them, okay, you can go to this way. And those things that you could be living right now are not really bad. I feel like bad, obviously. Wants
Mhm.
to, the country. Nobody wants to see their parents crying. Nobody wants to see, I don't know, probably lost someone,
Mm.
a loved one. Nobody wants to go through that.
Yeah.
It's something that is going to happen. I once the phrase that was, there's 100% probability that something wrong is going to happen. Someone's going to die. You're going to lose a job. You're going to lose friends. You're going to lose family. Probably you're going to lose something you really appreciate. And you have to be ready for that because it will happen. And you have to be strong enough for that moment you overcome that.
Yeah. Totally. One of the things that you also mentioned was these experiences, they build this fire in us. They ignite this fire in us to do better. So I think that when we learn to look at it from that perspective, when we learn to kind of that these things are going to happen in our life,
Yeah.
we're ready to turn those things around and use them as fuel. But then there is also those people that can sink during these experiences who see that these experiences are serving them, and so they go down sometimes the wrong path. You go and try to cope the easy ways.
Yeah.
That's going to drugs or that's going to alcohol. And I can speak for myself when I experienced the death of my mother. Within months after, started like a lot of marijuana. For that was one thing that like started to consistently get on. To unconsciously at the time, I was doing it to cope. I was trying to find some sort of escape. But thankfully, thank to God, one day I reflected to myself, and I was like, "Is this really a way to honor my mother and
Yeah.
honor my life?" And I knew that it wasn't.
Wasn't a way.
And
Yeah.
so from that point forward, is what are we going to do? Or what are we going to become from this experience? So I think it's that the moment of realization is important. And I think for us to have those realizations, we have to have people around us who kind of was those wake up, also help us kind of us. And this is why I think spaces like this are important, because someone who may be experiencing something at this moment, we can say, or maybe in the future, could hopefully find some insights that can help them see that there's different ways to navigate through difficult experiences. And that's something that I actually want to segue to now. We're focusing on loss and navigating loss. Have you ever experienced losing someone close to you? And if so, how have you navigated through that?
Yeah, actually, it happened this year in January.
Oh.
Grandfather died.
Mm.
He passed away in Bolivia. So I traveled there for like a week with my mom and my brother. At that moment, knew firstly, I was always thinking about priorities. Like this right now, the priority. And this is something also important to share with the audience.
Mm.
Priorities. Because at that moment, I could say, okay, I'm feeling bad. I'm just like, can't focus on my feelings and
Yeah.
I could cry. But that's not right now. The priority was, okay, I'm going to be there for my mom, for example, because he's having a difficult time more than me, like more difficult for her because his father. So it's more difficult to her. And I said, okay, I have to be there for her first. That's a priority. I could, my feelings, but firstly is that.
Mm.
We traveled to Bolivia. I supported her with everything. Also, my brother did. Once we came back here, I started thinking about my feelings. I never really felt sad or bad because I understood like what my grandfather wanted for me. Like he was a very good entrepreneur, by the way, and he always wanted us to be successful. That was always his dream.
Mm.
Every time I called him, how is everything going? You'll be successful. You can do this. You can do that. It was like that. And I said, what can I do to honor him right now?
Yeah.
That was my question. And I said, the only thing that I could do to honor him, it's to do what he always wanted for us, right?
Mm.
I'm not just talking financially. I'm being successful in everything. Like talking about financial life, mental life, spiritual life, physical life, having a
Mm.
good relationship with your family, friends, um, was like point at that moment.
Yeah, I think the questions we ask ourselves during those times is so important. For example, you ask yourself, how can I honor him? And that's something that also helped me realize, can I honor my mother during this loss? It makes you really think about just that moment, but how can I do moving forward?
Yeah.
You mentioned that you went to Bolivia and you were prioritizing your mother, but then after you came back, so you really started prioritizing yourself more. Now, have you had any that's been key to help you through that, or at least some support system for yourself, how you have been for your mother?
Yeah, I've always been, as I said, too close to my brother.
Mm.
It's like I always been a good support for him, and he's always been a good support for me. It was kind of reflected, and we were talking, me and him, and
Yeah.
saying, okay, yeah, we did that question, what can we do to honor him, right? And we said, this is what he would like for us. So this is what we have, and it depends in the two of us. I'm very,
Mhm.
nowadays, weird to have someone in your family that is so similar to you. That's what happened to us. Very similar, me and my brother, in many ways.
Yeah, I can
Do
see that.
yeah, do
Yeah.
things together, and it's like most people don't believe it, but we never really had a fight. I think and we never had a fight. So we were always close. We always understand ourselves, each other. So we always like yeah, it was like my support mostly, and we're reflecting about my grandfather and that question over and over again, like what he wanted for us. So that's where we find it, the answers. And once we started doing that, you have to take the action. And
Mm.
once we started doing that, we felt better because it's like I'm feeling great because I'm doing what I know it's right, what I know what he would like for us. And that's where you
Mm.
find that kind of a peace.
Yeah.
Where you find it, because if you're doing what you're not really supposed to do, or you have the idea of what you should be doing but you're not really doing it, you feel like, yeah, I could be doing better, but I'm not really doing it, right? Yeah, was mostly what we did.
That's good. Yeah, and I ask you that because I think it's important that when we go through these experiences, that we have someone along with us who can also accompany us and also support us.
Yeah.
Because we can be support to others, but then we also having that support for us, I think it's important, and it helps us to navigate these experiences, to feel what we need to feel, because these experiences are painful, but to that support also be able to move forward together. I want to lean a little towards purpose and ask you, what gives you purpose in your life?
I think about purpose, in order to find your purpose, it's not like something that's gonna just one day you're gonna feel like, okay, that's my purpose. No, you have to like everything, and throughout the along the way, you're gonna find, okay, I feel like this is my purpose. So, for example, when I was, we can say 14, 15 years old, I didn't really know my purpose. I was like, okay, what I'm gonna do. I'm kind of frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what I'm gonna do my life. I don't really have a purpose. I don't know what to do. I don't know, should I start? And you gotta, for a minute, forget about that and just start taking action about something. Okay. In every area of your life, not just professionally or in work, no, it's just in every area. And once you start doing that, you're gonna say, okay, I feel like this could be the purpose. And God's gonna give you, He's not gonna give you just one, we can say, a lot of purpose
Mm.
in every area of your life. You're gonna have purpose, your relationships, where you're gonna work, when you're gonna go, you're gonna marry someone, you want to have new friends, what kind of friends,
Mm.
in terms of family. Okay, one, the purpose of being more time with my parents, with my brothers. So there's purpose in every area of your life, and in order to find that, you have to try many things and you have to experience. And you also, one of the most important things that I experience is that you have to be close to God, because that's when you're gonna really feel where is your purpose. Because if you're just the things without feeling, without thinking, without
Mm.
developing your life, probably you're not gonna listen, you're not gonna realize what your purpose is, and you're gonna feel even more frustrated. So if you're close to God and you start experiencing those things, you're gonna see what is He calling you to do. And I experienced that.
Mm.
At the moment that it didn't know what to do, it was like, okay, I'm gonna try this. And once I tried many things, it's kind of you start developing your purpose. You firstly find one part, and then you realize another part. So you start like your purpose, and it's not,
Yeah.
at least in my case, I realized many things about my purpose, but it's not complete. I'm gonna keep that throughout the time and throughout more experiences that I know I'm gonna have. Um, Once you start, like, it's like steps. You have the step one, you know what to do, you know where you're gonna your life, and you have the step two, and you feel where you're going. And also, when you're close to God, you feel like, okay, I'm going in a good way, and this is the right path. So yeah.
Presence allows us to, as we're going through our process, in a way, see steps we should take, kind of like just that direction.
Guides us, yes.
And so mentioned God a couple of times, and I want to ask you, what role does God play in your life?
I think it's the most important role, at least in my life. I think what it comes first. Because if you don't have that, you will not understand, or you will not see like deeply the other things in your life. Like, example, if you have a family, but you don't have God, you won't really see the good things of that family, because it's like blind. There are many blessings around you, but if you're not close to God, you won't be able to see them, right?
Mm.
So when you get close to God, you start being more thankful. So it's like, oh, I have this family. I didn't know it was a great family. I have this job. I have this business, which is absolutely great. And I went, yes, through a lot of difficult times, but at the end, wow, I did something, right? I could be talking about your, you can say, physical life. Okay, I wasn't in shape. I started, this sport and going to the gym, and I'm getting better. I'm seeing the results, and you really feel thankful because you received that motivation, that grace of God
Mm.
to move forward. Because it's not easy. I'm gonna tell you, for people to really show up every day in all the areas of your life, because it's a lot. I mean, you have to work, you have to learn new things, you have to close to God, and you put all together, it's a lot of things to take care of. There's a moment where you feel like tired, you don't really think you're moving forward, you're like in the routine, and
Mm.
I'm doing this, yes, I know I'm moving forward, but I'm not too sure, I'm not seeing the results. And that's something, in humans, you want to see everything fast. That's also something that it nowadays is more because all the social media stuff. You gotta be patient, and when you're close to God, you feel like fulfilled, like in the right path. I know I'm doing this, and even if it doesn't seem like a big step today, I know it will be tomorrow or next year or next month. Or it doesn't matter the time, but you're moving forward, right? So yeah.
So you mentioned all these areas of our life that sometimes it gets um, to keep a balance of them all, and I think that's the challenge to progressively learn to stay consistent to each one of those areas of our life. And along the way, we start building that balance, and we continuously work on that. I think it's a daily work, a daily decision to
Yes.
commit to each area of our life, and it's not going to be perfect, but I think it's that commitment, that daily choice that we make, that's what really counts.
Yeah, and it's difficult because in your day you have many choices. You're talking, for example, about I'm gonna say habits in terms of your business.
Mm.
Let's say you have the option to work, you have the option to not work, you have the option to work hard, you have the option to work hard and smart, right? So each of those choices has a different level of, and we usually want to take the easier one. That's always going to happen. But when you decide to take the harder one, then after you finish doing that, you feel better.
Mm.
Because it's like the beginning, your brain is like, I don't want to do this, this is difficult. But once you have done it, you feel so much better than if you would choose the easier one. Because when you choose the easier one, it's always the feeling after that, like, I could have done better. And that feeling, it's way worse. And it
Mm.
consumes so much mental energy than choosing the hard one. So, yeah, kind of my mindset in that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it goes towards getting out of our comfort zone, because usually the harder things tend to take us out of our comfort zone, and so we rather do something that's less difficult, that's going to be in our comfort zone,
Yeah.
that we don't have to make that extra effort. And I think that that's what really differentiates someone who's successful and someone who's not. The decisions we make, part of this, the more times that we choose to make those hard decisions to get out of our comfort zones, I think that's really what allows us to grow. You remember the first time that I did, say, a speech, for example, in front of a classroom, that had a lot of fear in me. I was super nervous, super anxious, but I was like, I know the only way, and even if this is something I want to do in the long term, if I want to do speeches, I want to do talks, then I need to start. So it was kind of hanging on to that and letting that motivate me and move me, and know that, okay, it's not gonna be perfect, but what's important right now is for me to take the action and to go for it and do it. And so it's like once you start doing it the first time, then the second time it becomes easier, and the third time it becomes easier. And so now you need to start looking for, okay, how can I challenge myself now? So it's like, I think it's constantly looking for ways for us to challenge ourselves so we can grow. You mentioned the word success, and I wanted to ask you as well, how do you define success in your life?
I define success in my life being the best as I can be in each area of my life every day. Because for me, I could be successful one day, but if tomorrow I'm taking the easier decisions,
Mm.
not being successful. Like that leads my mindset. Because most of people like find success in financial freedom, and once they that they're like, okay, I'm gonna just stop here. For me, that's stopped also being successful. Because being successful, it's being that person every day. And not just that, being even better every single day,
Mm.
even if it's a 1%, 10% better each day. But it has to be each day, because that's at least for me success. So I'm gonna, in terms, for example, of my business, I'm gonna do as better as I can do this day and tomorrow would be better in terms of my spiritual life. Okay, I'm gonna find more ways to be more close to God, to learn new things, to develop that part of me every day. I'm gonna find more time to develop that. In terms of, we could say, life. Uh, I'm gonna this routine. I'm gonna do the workouts every single day. I'm gonna play this sport every day of my life, right? And that's something I've been doing. Right? Even if I feel tired, even if I don't want to, I just do it. And this is something that you have to really keep the emotions separate, because if you include them, it will be much harder. So for me, it's feel tired. Like, I don't think about that. I could be tired. I could be not tired. I could be happy. I could be sad, but it doesn't matter. Like, I'm gonna do it. For me, yeah, at least in my experience, that it's what worked. Like, was my mindset since the beginning.
Yeah, I think very easy to get attached to our emotions, and we make decisions based off those emotions. I think that's what creates inconsistency, because our emotions are inconsistent. You're not always going to feel motivated. We're not always going to feel driven. So if we rely on that, we're not going to move forward as we want to.
Exactly.
And that's something I've definitely had to learn in my own experience, because mind you, went through a difficult experience at a very young years old, and that made me really get in sync with my emotions. It made me really connect with my internal self because of everything that was going on inside. And through healing, through time, and through experiences, I've been able to be more emotionally intelligent, and also learn that, okay, in a way, detach from my emotions when it comes to making decisions for my life. When I know that I need to commit to something, even though if I'm not feeling like it, and I know that that decision is going to help me get to where I want, then I need to make it. And so I think that realization is important. And I want to ask you, what helped you to realize that you couldn't rely on your emotions?
What really helped me realize that, it was when I was, my emotions firstly was like about how I feel today. I wasn't really moving forward. Like, that was a very painful moment, because be 1-2 years that I've been living that way. And I was like, at the beginning of each year, I always put in my goals. I want to do this in each year of my life. And by the time of the end of the year, new year, I always check that list. And for 2 years, I was just checking one thing, like at this, and all of this I didn't. And I asked myself, why not like moving? What's going on? And reflecting, I realized that I was being emotional. Like, today I don't feel like doing this. I'm not gonna do it. Today I feel sad. I'm gonna rest. Today I'm gonna sleep. And once I put that separately, I started seeing results. I started seeing a different me, right? So that's something that I always with my family and my brother. Like, you have to keep that separate. You have to be like logical. There's also for being emotional. I mean, friends, yeah, you can be with your family. If you have a couple, you can be also you can emotions, because that's what it is for.
Yeah.
But when you have to really make decisions that's gonna change the path of your life, where you're going, what you want to achieve, you can't really have the emotions there. I mean, have some. I mean, have motivation one day. Okay, but what one day you don't have it? You have to use discipline. You have to say, okay, I'm doing it anyway.
Yeah, what you're saying is that there's a space for each thing, space to discipline, to think logically, and decisions based off that. And there's also times to be emotional. And I think that's important because, for example, when we're talking about something like loss, it's important to feel those emotions, because if we don't, then it starts creating this ball inside of us.
Yeah.
There's this weight that then doesn't allow us to think clearly, and makes us very fragile, because we're all this accumulated emotion inside of us. So I think that it's important to identify moments when we can express ourselves, when we can feel what we need to feel, but also understand the decisions that we need to make based off our priorities and where we want to go. So I think kind of things is important.
And it's important because, end of the day, we're humans. We have emotions, and it's normal. And go through things in our lives that's going to create good and bad emotions. And as you're saying, we just say, okay, I'm going to forget about that and I'm going to move forward with my life, because be there, and it's going to be more heavy and heavier each time. So you have also to give yourself a time where you're going to solve that. Like, if you lost someone, and I know how my feelings are right now, I'm gonna give myself the time each day to solve this, because I know that the benefit of that is gonna be that tomorrow I'm gonna feel better to move forward with my life and to take better decisions and to do things better. And that's something that it's each day, those things. And that happened with me. Like, I'm, feelings of the loss, for example, of my grandfather.
Yeah, it's
Normal.
yeah.
And also, there's time in my day that I have to forget about that. And I just have to focus on the decisions that I have to take that day. Because, going on. And you still have to do some things. You still have to work. You still have to support your family. And it's like, at least for me, also, part of my purpose was to support my loved ones. I don't know if something that everybody experiences, but at least in my case, it was like, okay, I have, easy for me to keep the emotions separate sometimes. And I know, for example, for someone in my family, it's more difficult. So I said, if that's something I can do easier, I could, and just like sometimes you've heard like carry loads, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, that's an ability,
Yeah.
and so that I received from God at the end, right? Um, and it could be sometimes and it's something that is not great, because you could be too logical in things that you need to be emotional. So it's something that I'm still fighting with, being better at it. Like, okay, this is my emotional side. I'm gonna put it, and need my logical side. I'm gonna just be logical.
Yeah, having that conscience of identifying, okay, here I let myself be emotional is important. Here, okay, I have to be logical.
Yeah.
I think it's important because right now I was thinking to myself, once I started opening up about my mother's death, for example, with someone that was very close, somebody that was a big support for me was my brother, for example, that I would start expressing it with close friends, that I would start talking about it and being emotional and letting that come out. In a way, it started making me feel more free. It's because if you keep it to yourself, it's kind of because you stay trapped.
Yeah.
I think that's why it's important to express,
Yeah.
And this is another thing. I don't think necessarily it'll always have to be with words, but there's also people that are, they journal about it, or people that like to make art or play sports. I think there's so we can express those emotions so that they don't wait in us, but that we kind of direction in our life.
Yeah.
We can kind of be from them. And I think that then allows us to reflect and see other lessons also that those experiences leave for us. Because I think it's hard to see the lessons that those experiences leave for us when we're blinded, when we have all that emotion inside of us, all that weight.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting process, which at the end I find very beautiful. And I'm thankful with God always, because I think He's guided me to have those I've needed to have, and to also have the to reflect and see the lessons He left behind for me. Appreciating life more, appreciating the people around me more, seeing that life in general is a blessing. To wake up every day is a blessing.
It's a blessing.
And so what are we going to do with it? That I'll ask you is, what have been some key skill sets that you've had to obtain to be where you are today?
I would say number one, discipline, because I said, like I do, sometimes you're not gonna feel like doing something. And that, I think you like do a lot of things. But the other thing that I discovered once I was being disciplined and I was getting my goals done, but I wasn't really feeling, you could say, happy. And it's because you have the second skill, which is being thankful. You have to give thanks for everything, like for life, because you wake up each day, you have a good family, you have a home, you have whatever it is. And that is the only thing that's going to give you that happiness. Because most people think that it could be something material or a job or a car. It's going to give you the happiness. And once you get that, you realize that it doesn't give you the happiness. So then you okay, what? How is this possible? I wanted happiness. And then you realize that you have to be thankful for that, to feel that happiness that comes from God. Like God gives you the tools for you to do something, and then you're grateful for it, and you feel that happiness because you know it through Him, right? So also it's important to keep God like close to you, because if not, you're gonna feel that. You're gonna be like, okay, at this, I achieved my goals, but I'm not really feeling great. I don't know why. And you're never gonna find the answer if you're not close to God. So that's this thing that has helped me a lot. And I could say the third thing is to really be brave and to. I know it's difficult to not have fear, but again, if you have God close to you, you'll have more than fear, you will have hope. And it's like, this could go wrong, but I feel and I hope that it will be okay, right? So you take the action. Because if you include your emotions, you include your fear inside the actions you have to take today, and you don't take that action, probably what you always wanted to achieve, it was next to that. And you stopped there because,
it's kind of like God gives us that grace and that hope. He's like that light at the end of the tunnel that allows us to move forward through that action that we're doing. Exactly. And so we kind of fear along. It's like a fear with me, but I also have God with me who gives me hope, and I move forward with that. And we bring the fear along, let the fear stop us, but we move forward. And so I think sometimes we can get left stop us, but it's like, no, we're going to feel fear. It's part of the process because it's something that's new for us. Let's just bring it along with us. The process, that fear starts diminishing because we start taking that action. Exactly. And we see that at the end of the day, it wasn't as bad as we expected. I think a lot of the time,
that's happens a lot.
I like a lot of the time we create in our mind this kind that it's going to be a lot harder or a lot worse than we really think it is. And when we're there, we're like, oh, it wasn't
that bad. Yeah. Me too a lot. Yeah, a lot of times, like, I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be hard. And once you get that done, or once you go through that, it was like, it's not as I was thinking. And, it tends to create a, situation that could happen that, sometimes it never happens.
Yeah.
So it's to take the action, have the hope, be close to God, and, for each day that you have, for everything that you have in your life, because that's what's going to give you the happiness.
Thank you very much, Kadir, for sharing. Thank you again for coming today. It means a lot. I think this conversation has been very enriching, and I hope that the audience can take something away from this today. So, guys, don't forget to subscribe and follow Kadir on his platforms, okay? If you haven't watched the last episode, go give it a watch. It has a lot of value to offer. And share the video with any friends who think that the topics and the things we spoke about could them. I think that it's really what it's about, the impact that these sort of conversations can have in our lives. So again, Kadir, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And until the next one.